Welcome back to Business Boone, a product of the Boone County Chamber and hosted by Deep End Talent Strategies. I'm Shauna Lake.
And I'm Lauren Byram. And today we are joined by Randall Cloe of Cloe Legal.
You probably answered either one though, right?
Cloe Legal.
Same.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Lovely. Thanks for having me.
We are so happy that you are here. And before we begin, one thing that we like to ask all of our guests is, if your life was a movie, what would the title of the movie be?
Okay. There are very specific reasons why I did this, and because I knew this question particularly ahead of time, I checked with Chat.
Chatty? I call him Chatty.
So Chat gave me some things that are okay, but gave me one that's really good.
Ooh, do tell.
Yes.
So I thought I'd give you my short list.
Okay.
So, A Different Inheritance.
Oh.
Okay.
Built, Not Born.
Interesting.
The American Rebrand.
I resonate with that one.
And the one that actually resonates for me, Out of the Margins.
Love that.
Now I want to know why.
So the basic premise I gave it was sort of my background, where I came from. You throw in blue collar, you throw in small town, and you get something similar to this.
Okay.
But there's definitely in my story a rebrand, so that fits. And most of my life is coloring outside the box and playing outside the margins. So that to me was that Suncombe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig it.
And it makes you kind of not every attorney I've ever met, which is why it's always interesting to talk to you.
If at all possible, yeah, I'd love to be that guy.
Well, I do want to hear more about your life and your career transition. Before we dive into kind of more specifics about your background, was there anything you want to share about you, your family, and kind of to this point?
Sort of already led into that. So, born and raised small town Indiana, so Wabash, Indiana. Blue collar town, blue collar expectations. My friend group decided to go to college, therefore I was going to college. And I went with what made sense. So went to Ball State, met my wife there. We eventually moved together to Indianapolis, started our lives together, and we've been in Zionsville now for... We also have one of the 5 Indiana Supreme Court justices.
Very cool.
From Wabash, Indiana.
Very cool.
Yep.
Fun fact.
So you began your career getting away from geography in Indiana, but you began your career as a designer in advertising and ultimately became an attorney and a firm owner. So what first planted that seed that you wanted to make such a big shift? Because that really is like big shift.
The planted seed is spot on, really. I think before I knew I enjoyed debating, I was enjoying debating. I had one particular high school teacher government teacher, who you could just tell she likes things inside the box. She likes things tidy, she likes things black and white, and she would present information that way. And I was always finding the cracks, the edges, the in between the arguments. And there was a point one day when she had probably had enough of me, and she just looked me straight in the eye, stopped, like 10-second pause, let the classroom set. Like, have you ever thought about being a lawyer? And she let me sit with that and then went on. So the seed got planted, and then many years later, I had graduated from Ball State with a degree in graphic design. I'd been sort of bouncing from job to job for 1 to 3 year stints at a time. There was a point where I felt the never ending. I felt the inconsistency of the life, and I considered something else. And in that time, I don't know if we were just watching a lot of legal shows, but I was noodling in the back of my head. Then I reached a point 10 years in, and that became my last straw. I made a decision to leave the career that I didn't want to go looking 4 months for another job to only have it for a year or 2 years. And I went all the way back to the drawing board, and I'm sorry, this is already too long, but
No, it's great.
I went all the way back to the high school personality test. Everything online I could get my hands on. I'm just taking all the personality tests. And there's no change in 10 years. Number one, architect, photographer, graphic designer, interior designer, landscape designer. I'm just like, no. Anything that involved being creative for pay, I would just, no. And number 7 was attorney. And that just, it piqued my interest. I spent a little bit of time figuring out what that actually meant, because in my family, you only hire attorneys because you need a divorce. So they do other things, I know that, but then it just took a minute to figure out what they do, how that might apply, and then can I see myself doing that?
Excellent.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what's the hardest part of walking away from a career where you know you have skills and that you're good at it and you have established credibility, to starting from scratch?
It's quitting.
Oh, interesting.
Actually making that cut.
For me, it's you spend 4 years in college building a thing. You spend 10 years in the real world building a thing, and that's the only way you see yourself. And it's not that I was raised you never quit. I quit T-ball. I hated it. It's that you identify so strongly in a way that quitting, it leaves you unmoored. It's supreme uncomfort.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part.
Yeah. And at that time you probably had, well, you said you were married, you maybe had kids, like there's other factors in that too to take into account.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I started the process before we actually had our first, and I started law school itself when my oldest, now a freshman in college, was 10 months.
Wow. You had your hands full back then. I'm making a change. But look at you now. It's awesome. So kind of looking back on that, how did you take your creative background and how did it shape the way that you problem solve now as a lawyer? Because I'm sure that there are some intricate, like some things that have weaved itself into your...
So part of that vetting process of does law work for me? Can I do that?
Yeah.
Was seeing the common thread of problem solving. When I'd reached a point 10 years in with my design career where I finally was in the room with the client. I would hear the pain point. I could actually hear the pain in their voice, and I could interpret everything that they were saying with my ears, not with a salesperson's ears, not with a developer's ears. It was me listening to the problem, and then we would go problem solve and bring back a solution. And then they just responded. This is perfect. This sounds just right. Mm-hmm. That was everything. Once I figured out that's the thread, you're just problem solving over and over and over. That gave me sort of a vision for how this works. And that is the foundation to how I operate as an attorney. Mm-hmm. In design, you live in an ideology of abundance. There's 1,000 different ways to say what you want to say. There's 1,000 different ways to illustrate the graphic that you need. It can be cartoonish. It can be anything you want. You're almost paralyzed with so many choices. Mm-hmm. And all of these will solve the problem, but which one are you going to settle on? So you take that into a legal framework, and you're operating with abundance. You're not coming in black and white. You're coming in with, we're going to find a solution. It's out there. Let's figure out which one it is.
So The Lincoln Lawyer, if you've ever watched that on Netflix, must have also been a graphic designer in a previous life.
Well, he does have the creative foodie side.
Yes, that's right.
So
That's right. Because I think the way you just described, that abundance, that the fact that there's so many solutions in your previous career to addressing a problem, is maybe not how a lot of people get to operate in their day-to-day work. So the fact that you did have that existence probably allows you to approach law in a unique way.
100% true. I'm not going to say most people, but many people operate black and white, right or wrong, and they just don't have. They've not stretched that muscle.
Yeah.
They haven't been forced into a room with a bunch of other creatives where your work is just being destroyed, and it's because somebody wants to see something new, something different. So it's a muscle. You learn to use it, and if you're not doing anything like that, if you're in accounting, you're generally not trying to be overly creative.
Right. We hope you're not being super creative with your books.
Yeah.
So, being able to sit down with clients, to listen, to empathize, and then to bring choices is, as far as I can tell, very valuable.
Absolutely. So some people, having made a career shift like you did, could potentially look back and see those years as being wasted in the first part of their career. How do you view the early years of your career?
So I look at, I'm very, very happy where I am. And if you change anything about the path that I took, I don't end up here.
Nice.
So that's the way I look at it. It's everything I did was what I needed to do to get me here. Somebody else could have gotten here in 10 years. It took me 20, whatever. This is the path I had to travel to get here. So I don't look at life that way. And I guess if you're overly troubled by or fixated on that as a loss, then I just would encourage you to look at life as more of a continuum, a musical composition. There's
I love that.
the first part, the second part, the third part.
That's great.
Yeah.
Life is very much. I have a poster picture in my office, which is a bicycle, and basically the message is life is like riding a bicycle. All you got to do is keep pedaling. So you got to keep moving. I think that's the core for every business. I think it is real that if you are not, as a business, if you're not growing, you're dying. You can say I'm sustaining, you can say I'm good where I am, but in reality, you are just on a very, very, very slow death. You're either going up or down. There's no perfectly even. We don't get to stay in the exact same space and never change. We have to change. So, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. So
Great
using
advice.
I love that phrase too. It makes people cringe sometimes. I think,
Yes.
So thinking about your bike analogy and having your bike and balancing, on that bike as a solopreneur and firm owner, how do you kind of balance that being a practitioner with also being a business operator? Because that is a fine balance in my mind.
Yeah.
That guy's a work in progress. Mostly, I can say that if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist.
That's how my life is too.
I still struggle with that. There's the million options creative guy who doesn't like being bound by anything. If I had my way, I would come into work whenever I want. I would leave whenever I want. I would do all sorts of things just on whim. That doesn't work well with a business. So my balance is now, 12 years in, focus on the work week. Tighten it up. Be very intentional with those hours. and be mindfully building a week that has you wearing the different hats. So if you want to work on the business instead of in the business, you have to put that on the calendar too.
It's very true.
Yeah, and as a business owner, that struggle is we're always switching hats, or sometimes wearing multiple hats at the same time, and hoping nobody's looking.
For me, usually to mixed results.
Yes, that can be the result. You're right. Yeah. You already given some really great advice. We always like to ask our guests that what is something that you know now that you wish you had known earlier in your career? So is there anything else that you would advise our listeners?
So that's a little bit akin to what would you change if you could, which, as I've already mentioned, I can't do.
Right.
By way of example, there was an offer I had once upon a time to drop everything 1 week and be in Las Vegas the next week for a job. And I had a conversation, and I was just about to do it, and it fell through. Like it was a really bad idea to begin with, but had I done that, I have no idea where I would be now. I think for me, rather than try to, I try not to focus on those things that I could change if only. What I would like to have known sooner is what would make me happy. That I could be this version of happy with who I am, that I'm enough doing this, and this, at least for the extended future, can sustain me.
I feel like that could be a whole nother podcast. It's finding what you truly want to do in life and your passion, and I feel like you found it though.
It's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But there's a lot about what I get to do that just makes me happy.
That's awesome.
So if I could have found that a little bit sooner, then, what would that look like?
Yeah.
I don't know.
To your point, though, you had to go through all the things that you did to know what happy is, right? And to appreciate what you have today.
So let's just pause it for a moment that in my 10 years in graphic design, I was staying put for fear of the devil I don't know. I was staying in my comfort zone. And had I went to try something else, maybe I would have found that there was another thread that would have gotten me that here's a problem, let's find a solution, there's a solution, done. Here's a problem. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, very good advice.
Yes.
And congratulations on making a very successful career pivot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So if our listeners would like to get a hold of you for either to talk to you about your transition or to talk to you about something legal, how can they do that?
Website's the easiest way.
Okay. And what is that?
That is www.cloelegal.com.
Wonderful.
And it's enough.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank you.
a very uplifting conversation.
Yes.
I hope.
Yeah.
All right.
I enjoyed it very much. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we will be back with more insightful conversations. Until then, continue leading and growing with purpose.